You are now listening to the Building with AI Promises and Heartbreaks podcast, brought to you by Solid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Building with AI Promises and Heartbreaks. Today, I have with me Leena Chanvirach from Bangkok, Thailand. Hello, Leena. How are you?
Hi, Yoni.
Thanks for being on the show today, Leena. I'm really happy to have you here. So I've known Leena now for a bit over a year, I think, since you were at reInvent about in 2024. Let's maybe start with giving people some background. You're with A-commerce. What is that company? What do you guys do?
Okay, so well, first off, I'm Leena. I'm the regional head of data and analytics at e-commerce. I've been doing this for like almost a decade already, right? So a little bit about e-commerce. We're one of the biggest enabler in Southeast Asia. So we span about 6 countries. We got almost like 200 clients, right? So we are like a one-stop shop for the brands. So basically, brands come to us, and then we do everything from the moment we inbound their inventory into our warehouse until the moment that those inventory or products actually get to the end consumers. So that's including marketing, that's including data and analytics, delivery, warehousing, inventory management, order management, even digital marketing, live commerce, anything you can think of, really.
So basically, global brands that want to sell in Southeast Asia, they work with you guys. They ship their actual merchandise. You guys handle the shipping, the marketing, getting this merchandise out there and sold throughout Southeast Asia, basically.
Yes, basically. So we do local brands, we do global brands, all kinds of brands, right? And then we put them all on marketplaces, and we do like, a lot of models, right? Where we handle the inventory, or sometimes the client handles their own inventory. There's multiple different ways of doing this. But yeah, we
Amazing.
we basically manage all of that.
Amazing. And so as the regional data and analytics leader, what's your focus? What do you care about? What are you trying to prioritize and deliver in your role?
So basically at first all the data were fragmented. So this was a long time ago, right? So I was hired to basically consolidate it, right? So that we can actually come up with like an analysis, right? So because all of those are fragmented data, they're actually offline, they're actually online. And so we consolidated it, we create a data platform, and then we create the analytics on top of those things. And now we're just basically going into like, how do we get those insights easier, and how do we make it actionable, and how do we automate that, right? So
Okay. And
a normal
then
path.
a year ago, you stand on stage at reInvent in 2024 and you tell the story of the AI that you guys have built to help serve your brands. The brand, those clients that you're servicing, those 200 plus organizations, you built an AI to help service them. So let's start with why did you build this and what was your original intention?
So originally, okay, where it ends up in a different thing, right? But then originally the
Of course.
whole plan, the whole plan was because we have 6 BIs and we cover 6 countries. And then we try to expand something we call market insight, which is like the competitive analysis. And that we have a lot more clients, right? Because they're easier to to onboard those clients than the whole end-to-end fulfillment clients. So therefore, we started to have more clients, and then we don't expand the team like, according to the number of clients, right? So it's more of like, it's not like every 10 clients we add one more BIs or things of the sort, right? So we generally just try to figure out a way we can support more customers without having to like, invest more in the number of headcounts that we have. That way we can scale. So I was thinking like, what if the clients can create their own analytics? Then we would offload some parts of the BI work to those clients and the end users, and then they can create those by themselves. And then, that would, allow my team to be able to serve more clients without expanding the amount of people that is inside the team. So that was
That
my original intention, right? So because everybody was asking, so we talked to our BI team and we asked them like, what are the things that take the most time out of you guys? And they were like, custom reports. Everybody wants to see the data the way they want to see it. And even though it's a pivoted version, we have 30 pivoted versions, right? Something like that. And the CEO wants to see the same data, but then he wants it in a pie chart. Somebody wants it in like a heat map. So anyway, so that was where they were spending a lot of time. So they asked if like, what are the ways that we can work around this? And that was why we came up with that.
So you had very good intentions to begin with, right? It was about scaling, delivering more value and more content without increasing headcount. So it's a chivalrous intention, but doing more with the same. I'm sure everybody was happy. So that was the intention. How did it actually manifest? What was the journey like from that point?
Okay, the concept was great. Everybody loved it, and everybody was like, you know what? And we can just talk to it, and we can get the data, and then everybody would do it themselves. That was the whole hype, right? So
Yep.
that came out like AskIQ V2, right? And we all have hopes. And then later on, what we find out is in Southeast Asia, it's a service culture. So therefore, because it's a service culture, and we only operate in Southeast Asia, people don't like SaaS. Even though the software is a SaaS, the SaaS in Southeast Asia is more like, I paid you, so you will give me the things that I want in the way that I want to see it.
Okay.
So it's a combo of really like, you and the client working together to come out with, is this what you want to see? No. Okay. What about this? No. Okay. This. And it's a gyration of all of that. What ended up happening was they don't really want to do this themselves, but they would like us to do it for them. So the tool becomes an internal tool that switched the work from BI team to the client growth team, which basically is a great thing because they expand along with the number of clients, right? So
Yep.
therefore, it's a lot more scalable than trying to add like 15 more BIs every time, right? So therefore, what happened was this allows our client growth team to be able to create those dashboards themselves, then pin it for the client. So when they come in, they fire it up. That's exactly what they want to see. But they're not going to go ahead and create those things themselves for the most part.
Yep. Okay. So basically, the vision was we're building something. So the BI team, that is your team, the 6 people, won't need to build reports. Let's have the end clients actually build their own things. We're building a great interface that can go in and ask questions, etc. The clients were like, that is very nice, but we're not going to use it because we're paying you. So you're going to do the work and you're going to give us what we need. And so you have basically client managers working in your
Correct.
company.
We call
The
them
client
client growth team.
Client growth team, okay, and then that team does scale with the number of clients. The more clients we have, the more people in that growth team. And so what ends up happening is you built a tool that still got the work off of your BI group, but instead of pushing it to the client, it pushed to the client growth team within your company. So at least you got what you wanted because it's not on your plate anymore. It's at least with someone else, and to some
Yes.
extent. So maybe that is maybe a positive side to it.
Yes, but it's still with e-commerce and not the end consumers. So from a SaaS perspective, it's more like, well, it didn't really achieve what we wanted, but hey, you know what? It actually helped us scale.
Okay. So that's first of all very good and important. Can you walk us a bit through who actually built the AskIQ inside the team? Like who got the task? Who worked on the technology? Take us through that journey a bit.
Okay, so inside our team, we have the data platform team, and the data platform team consists of like two parts, right? So one part is actually our data engineering guys, right? And then we have another part being the BI guys. So there's one that nobody ever mentions about, but is very important. But those are my DevOps team. So they're a basic shared regional resource, right? So those guys set up the environment. They make sure the permissions are correct. They make sure that the IT security policy has been met and things of the sort. So those guys will help us set up those environment, right? The account with like all the vendors. So we use like we're agnostic to like the vendors. So we have some parts Azure, some parts Google, some parts AWS, things of the sort. So it's a combo of a bunch of things, and those guys manage those for us. And then something we can never forget, FinOps, which is a new concept in Thailand, but then it's a very important thing because it allows us to bill the clients correctly, right? Because a lot of these are hosted. So
Okay.
therefore, we need to be able to know how much we charge and how we're going to charge, and what if the client pays for the service and then it didn't give them what they want, how do we actually reimburse them on those things, right? So that is the FinOps guy. And then, of course, the main part, the data engineering, the BI team. So our data are partitioned, right, into, oh, I can't say partition. It's just like we have a bunch of places where it's like placeholders for our data. There is the actual data that is the raw data. And then it comes into the data platform. Then it becomes like, a more structured data. And then later on, it becomes data made for analysis. And then it's the output where the end users can see. So those are handled by multiple teams. The end users team are the people who did the SaaS environment, the whole portal. So that we have the market insights team. And then for our supply chain, we have another team called EIQ. So those are our core business, and the portal are basically like a single sign-on, but then there's multiple pods to the portal.
Okay. And then so
AskIQ, sorry, it's just a little bit more. It was
yeah.
the AskIQ is actually the, the in consumer facing portal that is non-related to supply chain.
Okay. So building AskIQ, was it kind of a straight line and easy, like, okay, this is what we want to build, and the team was able to rapidly build it? Or were there challenges along the way, things that, that didn't go the way you expected them to?
Actually,
Or
there's a
was it
lot of things that didn't come out the way we wanted to, and we had to work with. The good thing is, so I learned a lot of things from this, right? And one of the things being the people that we work with and who we partner with. And that is a very important thing because you don't want to build everything from the ground up. So there are two things, right? It's always like a build or a buy. And when we did SIQ, most people would do it the other way around, is to make sure that it works internally before you actually give it to the end consumers and then
Yep.
commercialize it. We
That's
did it
what
the
you
other
usually
way
hear.
around. Yes.
Mhm.
So we did it the other way around. And the reason is because AI was new then. Commercializing AI, we know it's going to be costly, right? And so therefore, if we're actually going to invest in something, we want to make sure that it's going to be something that's going to bring us returns that we wanted. So if we start off with internal, right, we probably won't get the return that we wanted, right? Because it's basically saving human efforts. So therefore, it's going to be really hard to justify the project. So we went the other way around, and we want to create something that's commercializable first.
It makes sense. Like you're saying, we're building something. We need to see if we can make money off of it from our clients, because that will be easier to justify the project versus saying, "Oh, this is saving time for the growth team," and then somebody will say, "Well, so what?" So it's saving time for our own employees, which, is a good thing to do, but it's less tangible than, oh, here are clients. They're going to get better service. They're going to want to use us more, buy more. So it makes direct sense. So it makes sense to want to focus on the client side before. I know it's weird in terms of rollout. It's backwards from a
It's
rollout
weird.
perspective.
Everybody.
Yeah, but at least from like the business justification, I think it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, so that's how we do it. We rank it, right? And go like, okay, so which project actually have like, the best return? And then, we prioritize them, right? And we do this like every 2 weeks with senior management. And everybody, of course, is like, it has to be something that we're not going to dump money into, and then we have no idea if it's ever going to come out, right? So therefore, and so that is one thing that was really important. Now, the second thing is the go-to market, right? It's like, how long do we have to build this? And everybody was like, we gotta do everything within like, mid-year. And we're like, oh, and we're looking at mid-year. So I guess by the time I can hire engineers, by the time I can actually train them, by the time it will probably be more than that. So therefore, we look for vendors to partner with, and that's how we ended up at, I ended up in reInvent actually, right? Was because it was a true partnership between us and AWS, because they were really helping with their engineers and their solution design team. We were on beta version 2. So therefore, while we're in Southeast Asia, this whole project was in North Virginia. So therefore, we're transferring data back and forth, and it's humongous. We have the whole market data from like Lazada and Shopee and Tokopedia and Redmart and all those, right? So therefore the data is humongous and we're just like, how do we manage this big of a data? And they were having problems too, going, really? We're going to transfer this much and then this is the lag time that we have. We have to be able to crunch this like in seconds. And so those are the kind of unknowns because their products are new. It was like a beta version too. So
Yeah.
therefore, we're all working on it at the same time, kind of scratching our head going, we never thought of this use case. We thought it was going to be used internally. And we're like, we thought so too. But then it's not going to be used internally. So it was built for like, for somebody to basically get into the console and work on it
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, it was a lot of things that we were juggling around. It's like, wait a minute, the limits is 2 terabytes. And we're like, it's only like 1 terabyte and it's not crunching anymore. And then they actually have to go back to the product team. They actually have to go back and go, okay, which engine is actually like not working, something like that. So
So
it
Amazon
was,
Web Services, AWS, they took this as a project because their technology was early. It's 2024. Everyone wants to do AI. Leena comes out of Thailand, and these AWS guys based in the US and saying, "Hey, we have this project," and like, "Yeah, we'll work on it." And then as you go, everyone is learning. Not just the people at commerce, but also AWS. They're learning. Okay, how to build these things, which is probably crazy going
I
through that
know,
experience.
because the thing that we had to go through was things like, very simple, low level things, permissioning.
Mhm.
Typically, row level security is something everybody knows about. It's like, something it's like a very basic thing. The
Mhm.
thing is, every user of ours can have every kind of combination they want. The more flexibility you give to the end users, right? The more configuration you have to do at our end. And they were looking at our permissioning table going, how long is this thing? Right? So they were like, aren't you permissioned by country? And we're like, no. Categories? It's like, yeah, in combination to the brands. And it's like, how many brands do you have? And we're like, on the marketplace, let's count. So that's when it kind of come up and go, whoa, for every single time somebody comes in, we need to ensure that they only see what they can see and is permissioned by this really granular thing that expands and it's really, really long. Right. So even that small little thing, we're kind of like, how long is it going to take this thing before it errors?
That's a challenge, by the way, that I've heard quite a bit where people say, okay, we want to build this AI interface into data, but the data needs to be, every user should only be able to see the data that they're allowed to see. And it gets really complicated because, you need to identify the user. That's the easier part, but you need to make sure that all the data that they get access to is only the data that they're allowed to. And if the AI is now running, generating a query and running the query and pulling the data, it's only pulling the data and retrieving the data you're allowed. And that's a big issue. If you look, looking at it in hindsight, a year after, is there something that you guys did back then that you're looking at it and saying, we could have done it differently, we should have done it differently, or if I would have done it again, I would have done it differently?
Actually, this one I have to think because it's been a while ago. And we're
Yeah.
like, keep on moving. So I know what my current problem is, but then I couldn't figure what my problem was then. Actually, for this case, I don't think I remember learning a lot of things, which I can definitely share, but I don't think there's anything that we wanted to do differently. And the reason is because it's a combination of the investment going in, right? And also the go-to market and the time frame that we have. Can we come up with something more comprehensive? Probably yes, but it would miss the go-to market, right? And
Hmm.
then we would miss the bus. And then, so for us, let's roll it out fast. Let's test it, know what we need to improve. And then that's going to be in the next version, which we're working on, right?
Yep.
So therefore, if I spent a lot of time, right, we will never get the traction. Everybody would come up with it, and then we would be the last, right? We would
Yeah.
miss all of those marketing opportunities and things of the sort. So, am I going to do it differently, even though I know that we can definitely technically make it like a bit more comprehensive? No, I think because the market is really, it's too early for people to be doing that in Southeast Asia, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, and you wanted to get it out the door quickly, time the market, and start getting
Test
feedback.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about testing for a second. How did that go?
Okay, so what we did was we basically have a bunch of questions, okay, business questions first, right? That says, okay, these are the business questions that we want the tool to be able to answer. Then
Mhm.
our data engineering team, right, work out those like SQLs, right, to get those answers that we wanted. And then we come up with like, this is the data set that, this is actually the correct answer, basically,
Mhm.
for all the business questions that we want to answer, right? These are the number of brands that's supposed to show up. These are the percentage, these are the number of counts. These are all the products. This is the GMV, the sales, the promotions, and things of the sort. So for all the business questions, we actually have the equivalent SQL that
Mhm.
we would have done in order for us to generate the reports for the clients anyways. And then these are the data, right? And then we test that against it. So the product managers and, once the engineer finished that, the product managers run through all those questions, right? And then test it for all the countries.
Okay. So essentially you're creating the set of like this is the right answers and giving it to the AI and then asking the AI, okay, translate these questions to SQL and run it against the database. And then you want to see that it creates the right queries and pulls the right data.
Yes.
Um was there any like I mean this is 2024, so a lot of the tooling wasn't there that we have today.
hmm
But was there any automated testing or anything like that, or is it literally people, product managers sitting down, typing questions and seeing the results?
That was actually what happened. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
it
manual.
wasn't worth us to actually come
Yeah.
up with an automation for something that we only have like almost less than 6 months.
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
if we
You're
have to
just getting the door.
continuously run this, right, then we would definitely do. But then that was more of like, we're going to move on to the next thing, right? A
Yep.
next version. And we're going to keep upgrading this. But then, so therefore, no, we didn't automate anything. It was us working back and forth with the vendors to try to get to the right answers and then back testing it. That's all.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, AskIQ came out, went to the clients. The clients were like, I'm paying you, so you do the reports, and then your growth team is doing it. So over the past year or so, your growth team has been using it to produce the reports. Anything interesting you learn about how the growth team, your own employees, are using AskIQ versus maybe what you originally intended?
Oh, yeah. They use it for diagnostics. So basically,
Okay.
they use it to check our data. Right? So it's like, count this for me, count that for me. How many brands are in there? Like, how many brands were there last month? Why is like, which brands are missing this? So, okay. It's a tool that gets a lot of data from like, a lot of marketplaces and products, right?
Mhm.
So
Uh-huh.
therefore our clients would subscribe to a particular category or a subset of brands, or, they would actually like subscribe to some products to make sure that they actually get the pricing for those products. The client growth team, they're very diligent actually. They check everything before, the client would wake up in the morning and see it, right? It's like, let's
That's
say we
good.
have to run the report like at the end of every month on the first. These are the clients who are supposed to get their report. They check everything. Like, how does the report looks like? Do we have spikes? Why do we have spikes? Which of the products are causing the spike and why the spikes happen. So they've used it to check and see like, what's missing and why isn't missing. And so like for instance, we have, this is a very common problem, but for instance, the marketplaces sometimes, add related product reviews. So imagine, so right now you're looking at a product, you're reading the reviews, and all of a sudden something similar pops up, but it's not exactly that, right? And they would add it in together and blend it. So it looks like, oh, the seller sold like double in one day.
Oh,
Or,
okay.
oh, the amount of reviews just all of a sudden just like pops up, right? Like it's a double. And then it would cause a spike when you look at the trend and you're like, no, this is unreal, right? Then
Yeah.
that they have to look into like which product is it, right? Exactly, that is causing this. And then they have to go into the site and look into it and go, oh, they just combine it for this product, right? And then check to ensure that is this what the client wants to see? No, right? Okay, then we have to split this. We have to remove this for them. And that's what they use it for. It wasn't what it was intended for, but they can't write SQL, right? They can't write SQL and they will never be. And
Yeah.
previously, we had to go back to the engineering team and go, run another report. Oh, now drill down to the SKUs of this brand. Okay, now filter this for me. But now they're actually able to just kind of look and check and check and check, and then just tell us that goes, okay, for this particular client, don't run the report yet. So they would just ping the BI team.
That's crazy. So for the people who are listening who are not in the data and analytics space, what happens a lot is business people who don't know how to write SQL, they can't, they don't know how to query the database directly. Usually what they do is they get these dashboards. And in they look at the dashboard. The dashboard has, lines and graphs, etc. They look at it and then there's something that doesn't make sense in the dashboard, like a blip or like something in the graph. Now, a lot of times, sometimes that's a real event, and sometimes it's just because the way the data was collected was done incorrectly, or there's some blip, or as you said, the marketplace is sending the data differently to how you're used to. Now, usually these business people, at that point, they see the blip, they go to the BI team and say, hey, or even data engineering in some cases, and say, hey, this doesn't make sense, which creates a huge amount of work for the data team and the BI team. And now what is happening is your non-technical users, they see that blip and they're able to investigate and diagnose it on their own with AskIQ by digging and digging and digging and digging and then saying, oh, okay, I figured out what the problem was. And they're triaging and troubleshooting it on them by themselves, which I actually haven't heard of anyone else do it that way. So that's remarkable. That's really interesting.
Yes, they will
It's
come
unique.
back with, this is the exact SKUs that are causing the problem, and we want this one
Crazy.
removed for this month. And so, so, so that's one of the things that was what I learned is, like any other technology, is a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right? So in one area, it reduces work,
Yeah.
and then it's causing work on another area, but then again at a different level. So now what they would generally do, they would generally come in for you to generate those reports for diagnostics. Now they come in with, no, this doesn't work. Remove this one, remove that one, change this one. And for this month, make sure that this one doesn't show up. We'll talk to the client. So it's different. It's a different
Yeah.
level.
They know what they want a lot better. They come to your team with already the very specific
Yes.
requirement. So your team isn't spending days and days trying to figure out the issues. And the
Yes.
client is getting a better service because instead of the client getting a wrong report, your growth team identifies the issue and handles it prior. And so the client gets a great service. It's amazing. It's
Well,
it's
the
great to
client
do that.
always get the great things.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
the duckling
That's
at the back, right? It's like paddling underwater.
That's crazy. Okay, that's really interesting. What else did you learn over the last year of how they're actually using it? We're going to talk about the future in a moment, but over the last year, was there anything else that you learned through their usage, or like, wow, this is not what I anticipated?
This one is pretty much like the main one.
No
While,
one.
LLM in general makes a huge difference to at least my product managers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It,
Because now what they do is, when they see that, so my product manager used to have to talk to the engineering team and go, guys, can you run this for me so that I can check this and that? What they do now is they actually can look at the result query, look at the result on the dashboards, and then go back into like, okay, it must be using this table, because they know, the product manager know. But the difference is they can actually take the SQL, reverse engineer it using the LLM and say, can you tell me what this SQL does? And
thing.
then
Yeah.
look at the logic and go, this is not exactly what I want, right? So can you guys change this? You open a ticket and then change it. So
Yep.
the loop kind of changes, right? So what happened is the engineering team, now we don't have engineering QA per se for a while now, but we have the product manager who was able to ensure that, the logic and all the implementations of all these convoluted logics in order for us to, like, manage all of these big, huge set of data is being implemented accurately by him looking into it himself.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So now let's look forward. So 2025 is about to end. 2026 is coming. What are the opportunities, the challenges, the priorities going into 2026 around this? What are you thinking?
Okay, so one of the big things that we wanted to do is content. So that's where, we really want to invest on. So okay, live is a big thing. So that's one of the areas that we're going to be improving as a part of, like, the whole company about content, right? It's how people, the shopping. So we used to call it live, we call it shoppertainment, right? So people don't,
Shoppertainment. What is that?
yes, we call it we call it shoppertainment is because when people are buying, The
Yes.
traditional way is you know what you want, right? Or
Yes.
if you don't know what you want, you go into the marketplace and you kind of browse through the categories. They have the top picks, they have the top sellers, and then it allows you to have some ideas of go. I have no idea what I want, but maybe this is what I want. Shoppertainment is like TikTok, right? You're watching somebody and she was like, "Oh my God, this is so good." And then you're like, "Oh, I don't need it, but then it's so good. Why not?" Right? So you're watching video and you're like, this girl is wearing this in this viral video. I think that looks nice. I'm going to go look for where she got this from.
Yes.
Right? So it slowly moves from that. And now it moves into people asking ChatGPT, what's the best camping gear I should get like for 2025? It's December in Thailand. The weather is not that cold. And then it starts from there. So therefore, the shopping behavior change. And so we will, because we offer these services to our clients, so these will all change too. So for 2026, we're basically migrating our focus into contents, right? It's like how we get these products out to the end consumers in a different way than we usually do. And what are the things that is going to help us facilitate that? Now, that is not just data and analytics, right? So those are like AI initiatives in general. Is how do we help our brands get through to their end consumers in a different way? And it's not like we're going to ditch the old way because every year there's no such thing as, oh, let's drop some requirements. It's always like,
Mhm. More.
so how do we handle more of these? Right.
Yes.
So,
How do we do more?
so therefore, it's like the channels remain the same. People buy less, but you can't really obsolete it. Right. And then these are the new ways in which people are doing. So how do we assist brands in getting through those and facilitate those kind of things? So it's like, and people tend to watch live in weird timing, which is like, really 2 in the morning? Do we really have to do that? Right. And so, where the AI characters would have to come in. But then again, people don't like watching just AI character of anyone. It has to be specific person that they're following. It has to be like, for different categories, it have to be this characteristics, something like that. Right. So that is initiatives in general. And then for analytics, we would like it to be able to do like chat. So if you notice, right, people are getting very used to chat, right? So those are very low barrier. But people are using chat anyways, but for the most part, they get back text. It's a deep research. They generate some image back and forth and things of the sort. But for analytics, it's still a little bit difficult because whatever tools you use, number one, you're limited by the amount of data that you can put into it in one prompt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the
Yep.
data that we analyze are in millions, right? The data points are always in millions. So it's going to be difficult for anybody to find something that is for individual use that is not enterprisey, that is going to be allow them to do that kind of chat, right? And number two, they need to be able to generate all the very preliminary charts because sometimes coming out in tables is really hard, even though that's at the end result, they will probably export those charts and then they will pivot it again and do
In
something else
Excel.
with it, right? In
Yeah.
the Excel is like really important. So there's no way that you can go, well, that was actually what I thought too. It's like we can get rid of those Excels, we can give them the ability to create those charts and graphs and then create them the insight. At the end of the day, they will go do their own thing. Number one
Yeah.
is to check.
Yeah.
The hard part I find about the second version of analysis is the AI is great in helping you crunch data that you couldn't possibly do it on your own machine in the first place. So let's say you have to analyze a huge amount of data, right? Sales order for the past 24 years because you want cohort analysis, just a very simple cohort analysis, customer repurchase behavior, things of the sort. You have to open an Excel file that would take out all your RAM. Done. So you have to cut it into chunks. But then when you're doing a 3 months repurchase, 6 months, it's different, right? So you're like, okay, aggregate first and then chunk, 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 chunk. So it takes them a lot of time. Can they do it? Yes, they can, but it takes them an awful lot of time. And AI with the enterprise structure that we're putting in allows everybody to do that. But then there comes the second problem. How do you know it's correct? Because you can't crunch it in the first place, right?
How do you
So
validate it?
now, yeah, so that's my current dilemma now, right? With regards to the analytics. It's like, okay, so how do we, now that we're giving them the ability to crunch whatever they couldn't in the first place, right? And we want to reduce their time. If they have to spend time checking it again, then crap, we're not solving anything. So how do we work on that, right? And so what I did was we shifted the way we do things a little bit, the build and the buy. So therefore we have like a tech sandwich basically where the buy is bigger and the build
Hmm.
is smaller, right? And the
Yep.
reason is because there's so many AI tools that if you end up picking the wrong one to build, somebody will build it faster and better. It's going to be really fast. So we have to identify what is our competitive feature, right? Our advantage, what is our advantage? And we need to make sure that whatever we build is going to contain those advantage. And we have data that makes, people have tools. We have data and
Yes.
we're like, we have 2 points, right? Like, do we want to build it? Right? Depends on the go-to market, right? And do we have the capacity, right? And we're not going to increase the team tenfolds, right? But we want tenfolds. So
The output.
therefore, who do we partner with? And we basically find a win-win where you guys don't have data, we have the data. We don't have the product. Like, what can we do together so it becomes something that we can commercialize together? Something like that. So a lot of our initiatives are partner core competency, like, supply chain is still something we build our own intellectual property. The AI in there is just to help assist people internally to get things done. It's basically the AI plus a little bit of automation. While the one that we commercialize is we need to ensure that whatever is coming out there is going to contain this competitive advantage.
That makes sense. So first of all, there are changes in the market, irrespective of data and analytics. You're saying there are changes in the market. Consumers are now more TikToky, more ChatGPT asking it what I want to buy. By the way, my kids, they're not allowed to be on TikTok, but they're allowed to be on ChatGPT. And on ChatGPT, they ask it questions all the time. Should I buy this laptop, that laptop, this PlayStation, that PlayStation? And it's helping them make decisions at this point. And then they click on links and go there. So, the way that consumers are buying, the way that consumers are going to be consuming the marketplaces obviously is changing. So that's, commerce wide implications. And then you're saying also that that has implications on the data and analytics group because there's new data that we need to report on now to clients around these kinds of interactions, but also the bar is moving up. Clients and your client growth team are expecting better and better interactions with the data. And so you're looking to kind of move up the capabilities of what AskIQ and similar platforms can do. And then what you're saying is, well, it's starting to get very complicated on the technology side. Our unique value as e-commerce is around the supply chain, the representing of brands, collecting the marketplace information, et cetera. That's our unique value proposition. Our unique value proposition is not in building an AI interface that can crunch huge amount of data. So we're open to partnering and instead of buying solutions around that side while retaining our advantage and unique abilities around actually collecting the data from marketplaces, representing brands, and so forth. Is that a right way to summarize what you just said?
That's the best summary I've ever heard. I can't even do that myself.
Well, clearly I'm listening. It's amazing because I'll say this. There's so many companies and people that I talk to that in 2024 and early 2025, and even these days, they're building their own things because they want to build. They want to put the Lego pieces together and see, okay, this is how it's going to work. Build the experience. This is going to be fun. This is going to be great. And then it works. And then what happens is your users come back with, oh, great. Now we also want this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And now the challenge, the bar goes up, the challenge goes up. And so I think a lot of companies are in sort of in your shoes from that perspective. At least that's what I'm hearing in these conversations.
Well, a bit of a difference being the fact that, when you build something, having people come back to you and asking for more, I think that is a great thing. Actually, I love
Hmm.
that, right? My
Yes.
problem is when the attention span of people and the person giving the requirements is very short.
Yes.
So nowadays, especially when there's new tools, everybody will come in, Leena, check this out. There's this. I was like, okay, I haven't even started looking into it. Oh, another person will come in and go, they also have that, right? And the amount of things that you have to go through, right? And the documents you have to read and the videos you have to watch. Now my whole Gemini is being summarized as YouTube. Give me 5 sentences. right? And
Yes.
all I care for are these 5 things. If it doesn't have these, out. I don't even care for it anymore. Something like this, because we're in a part of IT governance too, right? Data governance. And you're like, you have to go through every single things and vet everything that what the whole company wants. So therefore, you have a list of things in the morning that it's like, oh, we have some new things again. And then there's of course data protection, where we actually have to go through as well, that goes, okay, so what happened is, because of that, I would love for the users to stick to one thing and go, these I've tried and I really love this feature, but I hate that feature. Now it's more of like, can we scratch that and you just go to a new one,
Yeah.
right? So I
They
don't
have
want to build
access to it and they
something.
spend.
Exactly. And I don't want to build something and then have somebody come to me like, 3 months later and go, oh, we're still building that, right?
God.
I found something that would work already, right? So that's the part that is, and then, because of the newer generations, okay, let's say
Mm.
that, like, everybody in the company moves a lot, right? Within divisions, cross divisions, cross clients, and by the time you finish like collecting the requirements, you're about to start, somebody moves again, and it's like, okay, so who owns this? I mean, right? So therefore, I switch a little bit and go, look, I'm gonna vet all the tools, all these AI tools. I'm gonna go in. We as a tech are going to vet all these tools, and we're going to teach you how to use it, but we're not going to build specifically for you because your attention span is very short. But if you manage to
Mm.
use it for 3 months and come back to us with what is your problem, then I will look into it. But if you never did, then no. So yesterday we just had a session where, with Google, like, oh no. So because we work with multiple vendors, right? When they
Yeah.
actually have a class and go, oh, there's Copilot. Well, that's like a Microsoft thing. And then there's Gemini, right? Version 2 or whatever it is, right? And AWS comes back with, oh, we have QuickSight Business Suite now, it's live. So while I have been using it for a long time, I'm not going to spend time teaching all my users. I would basically go, all right, join their training. These are the training. These are the day. This is what they're going to talk about. And if you guys find that it's going to be helpful, come back and talk, because I can enable it for you because you can't just enable anything for anyone. They have to only see the client data that they can see. Nothing is cross, right? The whole company, every individual person. So therefore, everybody was like, but then Leena, everybody's going to come to you and everybody's going to make you enable things. And I was like, trust me, there's not going to be a lot because your attention span is very little. So therefore, to be honest, I don't think I'm going to get more than 10 requests. Don't worry. That's what it is, right? So there's so many ways of doing things with this AI where the hype was people think that it's going to change everything. They don't have to do anything. But what is really great for is the things you know how to do, but it would have done it so much faster while you can still validate it. So therefore, instead of telling them like, oh, these are the new tools that this division can use, I just go with, they come with a use case, and then I work out how I get it done. And then I generate a bunch of slides based on it. And then we share that, right? And go, if you want to do this, these are with the tools that we have, this is how you do it. Tech is not going to build specific things and automation for a particular individual or a small division.
So you're basically doing what you're doing is you're letting them find the tools. You're giving them sort of like, these are all the tools you can use. Go join all the trainings, decide if we want to use it. All of these tools are sanctioned and have access and they're fine. Use whatever tool you want. If you use the tool enough and then you have requirements and your attention is still on the tool, then you come back to me and say, okay, Leena, using these tools, this is what I'm using it for. This is what's working. This is what I would like to get more. And then, there's more conversation instead of like they keep throwing stuff at you and driving you crazy because there's just so many tools and options out there. So I think what you're doing is essentially you're letting them sort of filter through the noise, and what you end up getting is the more concrete opportunities and use cases to work on.
Yes,
Is that fair?
that's fair, because it's too much,
Yeah.
right? For
Yeah,
for
there's a
us to
lot.
go through alone. And I'm not gonna stop them, because everybody have their own niche use case. I have a lot of niche use case. So therefore, I want them to be able to go through all of that and then figure which one actually matters, right? Which one really requires a build.
Yeah. Which one requires your effort? Because your team isn't growing, so or not
No.
not growing at the rate at these. Yeah. Okay. Super interesting. So we're towards the end of the episode. What I do is I ask a few questions. Each question I'll ask you, just shoot the answer that comes to your mind, and then I'll ask you why you answer that. Okay. So the
Is that
first
a
thing that
speed
comes to
thing?
mind,
Okay.
yeah, it's called like a lightning round essentially.
Okay.
Okay. So easy peasy. AI tool you cannot live without.
Right now, Gemini.
Okay. Why Gemini? Because that's what's
Because we're
sanctioned,
on
or
Google. Well, because we're on Google Workspace, right? So
yeah.
therefore, that's a natural thing.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Did you play around with anti-gravity by any chance? Google anti-gravity? It's no, okay. It came out last week, so I'm sort of dating this episode, but it's pretty cool. It's a cursor competitor or a codex competitor, and it's actually really cool. It takes a bit of a different approach to programming.
Okay, I'll
So
look into it.
yet another tool to play around with.
Yeah, now that's also playing around with.
We
Yes.
don't have enough toys, so here's another toy for
Yeah,
you.
Joe.
An AI myth you'd bust in one sentence.
That the AI is going to replace the human.
Okay.
I
Why?
still don't feel like today. It might be Skynet in like, a year, right? But then not now for me. It's still like, almost like for me, I feel like it's a very smart, intelligent 6-year-old kid. It's really
Yeah.
great, right? I mean, like, but then, because it's like almost like a 6-year-old kid with 180 IQ, something like that, right? And then, there's still some adult thing that has to go around it. So not today. So that's for me at least.
Okay, cool. One prediction for AI in the next 5 years.
I think there will be Skynet.
5 years, in 5 years, Skynet is live?
For some odd reason, it just looks like everything moves so fast. At first, last year, I was like, no, this is nothing. I couldn't care
Yeah.
less. Right. And then later on, because I spent so much time kind of like, hey, how are you doing today? It's almost like, wait, did I just say that to it? Like you kind of all of a sudden it blends in as opposed to being something that you're encouraged to use, it becomes a part of your life, like a routine.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. That's I know a lot of people are trying to get there. Some people are already in where it's just part of their routine, but I think more and more people are getting there, which is amazing to see how quickly it is just
Thing
three
is, you
years
don't
in.
even know. I mean, for me, I don't even know. I just feel like, no, I don't really use it. And then you just go into the history and go, actually,
Yeah.
there's no day I didn't use it.
Yeah.
Right. And
There's
you
a
just
lot.
don't even
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Can I ask you back
So
though?
nobody ever asked me, but you're
Yeah,
welcome
can
to
I?
if you want.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, like, what about you? What is like one of the AI myths that you?
That I'd like to bust?
Yeah.
Good question. So I think I think it does go back to what you were talking about AI replacing us. Across all my conversations, what I'm seeing is that it replaces some work, but it creates more work in other areas, and it sort of creates more opportunity. It's a bit like how you talked about how the AskIQ essentially replaced work that your BI team would have done, and it created more work for the growth team. But not more work in a bad way. It created opportunity for the growth team. Now they can provide a better service to the client. So it's creating more work, but not more onerous work or bad work. It's actually improving the service and what we can deliver to clients. So I think that's great.
Okay.
One day, I'm going to interview myself on this. I'm going to have an avatar interviewing me, or doing like a podcast with myself. That's my dream one day to get to that point.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I would love to hear that one too.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
So I'll
follow.
get to that one. Speaking of follow, so if you've been listening to this episode, please remember to follow, subscribe, like, click on thumbs up, bell, star, whatever it is on the platform that you're watching or listening to this. Leena, thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you, Yoni. I had fun too.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. See you next episode. Bye-bye.
You are now listening to the Building with AI Promises and Heartbreaks podcast, Brought to you by Solid.